The text that we heard today, I think sometimes the Spirit works in peculiar ways, unexpected ways, because as I was considering this text briefly this week when I had some moments of clarity, I thought this is a perfect text for Education Sunday. And let me share with you how I got there. Peter has had an experience, a transformative experience. As I've shared with you all before, the earliest followers of Jesus, the earliest followers of Jesus were Jews, right? They continued in the Jewish tradition. And they were proclaiming, most of them, this message of God's love, of God's acceptance, of God's justice and peace to other Jews. Thinking that God had drawn a line somewhere. They were the chosen ones. But Peter had an experience. Peter encountered an educational moment through a vision, through a dream, where the message was made very clear to him. That boundary, that border that he had perceived previously was but an illusion. That God's welcome, that God's love, that God's spirit of guidance and grace extended beyond any small community and included the entirety of creation. And the people back home, they hadn't had this experience, but they heard about it. Messages spread pretty quickly sometimes, right? News can flow pretty fast through the grapevine, especially when it's something you're not supposed to be doing, especially when it brings up kind of rumblings. Did you hear what Peter was up to in Joppa? Did you hear what he was up to in Caesarea? Yeah, he was eating with Gentiles. Could you believe that? And he gets back home. He gets back to the community of believers, and they are asking, they're taking issue. Yeah, Peter, we've been hearing some stories about you while you were away. What's this with you eating with some Gentiles? What's going on there? And Peter doesn't just say, hey, y'all, we got it wrong. Gentiles are welcome too. The end, right? He shares with them his full experience. Yes, twice we get this full story. If you go back to the previous chapter in the Acts of the Apostles, you'll get this full story, this full version. So Luke, perhaps the author of this text, knew even that the readers would need to hear this story again to get it through their heads, that this welcome was real, that this expansion of their understanding of the divine welcome helped that to get into their heads, because sometimes we need to hear a message, we need to hear a story more than once for it to get through, and probably more than twice. But at least we get it in full twice here in this text. And Peter has an understanding, it seems, that he can't just say, hey, this is just the way it is. Trust me, let's move forward. Rather, he expounds on his experience, his very personal, his very transformative and moving experience. And while they had started off questioning him, wondering what indeed was going on, had Peter lost it? They follow him on that journey, and at the end, they begin to open up. They begin to understand that something has happened here. All right, Peter whom we know and whom we love. Peter whom we trust and whom we have been following. He's not just making something up here. He's not just telling us what to do. He is sharing his lived experience with us. And they receive that. And their minds too are blown a bit. They too have been invited into that experience and can move forward at least a bit with spreading and with sharing that welcome. I was in a small group considering how to discuss racial justice with friends, with families, with loved ones. Somebody asked that question, well, I don't know what to do. How do I bring this up with my family? Do you just shove a book in their face? You say, hey, here, read this, or just like, no, you're completely wrong. This is just the way it is. Probably some of you have tried that before. It doesn't really work very well. And I shared with that person, and I shared with that group, and I think we learn here, we see here, we experience here in this text a way forward. I shared, why not speak to your experience? Share with them what you have been encountering and how it has impacted your life, your views, your understandings, and your action, your behavior. Some things, yeah, we need to just be told, okay, 2 + 2 = 4, right? We just need to learn those things. But that actually isn't even how they teach math anymore. I have a second grader. And they picture it, they put it out. You have physical things. Maybe they're kids, maybe they're apples, maybe they're dogs, whatever it is, but you imagine them or you see them represented and you experience what it is to add 2 apples and 2 apples. You invite them into that. Friends, we as a community, we as individuals, we have a lot of matters that are near to us and dear to us, that we have come to a place where we are strongly, passionately committed to justice, racial justice, economic justice, LGBTQ+ justice, all the justices, immigration justice. How do we get to a place, how do we share that education with others? Again, I don't think it's about giving them the right pamphlet, saying, hey, read this book. But perhaps we can take a lesson from Peter here. And we can be challenged and we can be inspired to consider how we got to where we are. And as we are engaging in that conversation, to share fully, wholly, this is how I landed here. This is why I am passionate about immigrant rights. This is why I go up to the State House to lobby for LGBTQ+ folks and for their liberties, their freedoms. This is why I commit my time, my energy, and my resources to bringing about racial justice in our community and in our state and across our nation. This is why I land here. Not just you need to agree with me. Invite them on the journey, friends. It can be hard, and it doesn't guarantee results. Peter's ended in a nice way. You're like, oh, okay. Guess God's doing something different here. Cool. It might not happen in one conversation. But friends, this I believe is what we are called to. This is the relationality of who we are invited to be, what our faith calls us to share ourselves more wholly and more fully, rather than only. That doesn't mean you can't share facts and figures with people, because those may have been key and been very impactful on your journey as well, but sharing them as a part of your journey. Sharing who you are with loved ones, with friends, with neighbors, and perhaps even those who would be pushing back against what you have to say. Those who perhaps have been persecuting folks whom you are seeking to embrace. Friends, that's the lesson that I am discerning from this text today. On this Education Sunday, as we open ourselves, as we recommit to a journey of education, of lifelong learning, and don't just keep it to ourselves, but as we are invited to continue on that journey and to share what we have experienced, to share with others what we have learned, how we have been changed, how we are continuing to be transformed. So friends, I'll give you a moment to reflect, to pray, to meditate, to connect with the divine, to feel the movement of the Spirit that is right here with you in this place, in this space. Friends, let us be together now for a moment of silence. Let us be together now for a moment of pause.